Welcome to The Know. I'm Brian.
I'm Ben.
Let's talk about Google's Project Stream service. They recently announced it, and they're launching with a pretty big name game, Assassin's Creed Odyssey. But if you haven't heard, I think this happened yesterday or very recently, but Google has put out a thing on its page for Project Stream where you can sign up to play Assassin's Creed Odyssey via the Chrome browser.
Sounds pretty cool. There's some limitations, right?
Big time, yeah. And before we get into that, streaming games over the internet has been talked about for a while. I think there's been some kind of half-hearted stabs at it, but the fact that Google is now getting involved, and we've heard some rumors about this before. I think they called it Project Yeti, but this could be pretty game-changing.
Yeah, it sounds awesome.
What works, yeah.
I know that other countries have done it. Right now in Japan on the Switch, you can stream Resident Evil 7, you can stream Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Right. Both like big AAA titles.
Yeah, Xbox has talked about, they have not talked about it, but there's been rumors that the next Xbox, at least one of them will be a streaming machine.
Yeah, I think Project Scarlet is the tentative name for that.
That's right, yeah.
Looking at a 2020 release, but possibly.
And I think even one of the Ubisoft heads, I think it might have been Yves Guillemot, said that they think there might be just one more generation of consoles, and then after that we'll all be streaming. But let's talk about what this is first. It's called Project Stream. They have signups right now, so if you're interested in playing Assassin's Creed over your browser, you might check it out. But like Ben said, there are some limitations. It is geared towards home internet connections capable of 25 megabits per second. Got to be 17 years or older. 25 megabits per second. Give me an idea, Ben, of what you know about this stuff.
Yeah, I've moved around a lot, and I've lived in like big cities, and I've lived in like rural countrysides, and like I know my parents were paying for like a 5 down connection, and we're barely getting even like 1 or 2.
Right.
So it really, I'm not certain the U.S. is quite there yet with an infrastructure for the internet.
Right. You think of like South Korea as being like on the upper end of that,
and like Japan, is small when you compare it to like the U.S. So they have a pretty good infrastructure already set, so I'm not surprised why the Switch has these stream-only titles.
Right.
But with things like the U.S., a city like Austin will have gigabit connections, like 300 to 400 packages. But as you get further and further out into the country, you're going to see things like anything from 1 down as a connection to 10 to 25.
Which would not make this feasible.
At all. I know if there's limitations, like I'm not certain how it is around other places in the country. I was seeing limitations where I was living at the time around the 25 range, which is like the bare minimum I believe Google's looking for this.
Yeah, Ars Technica had a good line about this, about the biggest challenges of streaming games, and they very correctly pointed out latency is the big issue. And they pointed out if you're playing a video game at 60 FPS, these services have 16 milliseconds to receive a button press over the internet, render a new live video frame, and send it back to you. This all has to happen with around 0 lag or buffering, or it's not,
It's not feasible.
Yeah, and we're used to, the vast majority of us, if you're playing a game on a console with, 0 lag, instantly for your button presses, because otherwise, if you're playing a platformer, an FPS, pretty much anything, it's going to screw you up.
You need the immediate connection back and forth. It's really cool that we are at a point now where you can get that, like it was, 16 milliseconds to get there, perform the new frame, and send it back to you and have 0 lag.
You gotta have fast. Yeah,
super
even
awesome.
Talk about that is good as a possibility. Google talked about this project a little bit. Their project manager wrote on the page, they said, "We've been working on Project Stream, a technical test to solve some of the biggest challenges of streaming. For this test, we're going to push the limits with one of the most demanding applications for streaming, a blockbuster video game." So yeah, they're starting off with a bang. This is a AAA, first-class, big developer game. And I'm sure their thinking is, if we can get this to work,
we can get everything.
Then we got it solved.
Right.
Yeah.
It's really cool to see a big name like Google behind this.
Right.
Where you've seen like things like NVIDIA Shield and whatnot. And there's been other game streaming services in the past that have both worked and not worked in many different regards. I'm interested to see what Google can do on their end to maybe figure out some of the stopgaps on what we can do to figure this out.
It'll be interesting too to see, if they get it to work, will gamers adopt it? Because we've seen in TV and movies with Netflix, people will go for streaming. For music with services like Spotify or Pandora, they will. Video games seem a little bit different, though.
It's a little bit harder for video games. With movies, you can usually have a little bit of a buffer at the beginning to make sure it loads everything. It's the same with music, and music is on a much, much smaller scale than rendering a brand new frame and figuring out what the next command is going back and forth. But like I said, I think we're on the verge of it. I think that's kind of the next step. I know like Microsoft is interested in their next box possibly being this stream service.
Right. Yeah, they've said they would, or at least the rumor is that they'd have a variety of things.
Right.
You know, traditional console and then a streaming one too.
And we've seen things like on the other end, PlayStation now has the ability to download games, which is kind of different. Like it was a streaming
kind of going
service.
the other way.
Right. And so I'm wondering what where they're going to meet in the middle. Right.
I'm just wondering if people will say the streaming works perfectly. Will people be willing to give up their copies of their games? You know, the physical release. I mean, we've seen lots of people are fine with going digital now, but to not even have a digital copy on your machine and then just to stream it, you know, at least with digital, there's sort of the illusion of, you know.
I have my license,
exactly.
which I've moved to I'm all digital with my consoles, right? So I'm not having any issues if I want to just download a game. I can sit there, but I'm also on that 300 to 400 down like megabit per second plan. So it's a little bit different for me. But it's going to be an issue for someone living out more in the rural country, and I'm interested to more see how that's evolved, because that for me was 4 or 5 years ago, and I want to see what the audience has on, like, if you're living out in the country and not necessarily a big city, what your internet speeds are right now.
Exactly, if you're a rural area. A little background on this, it's been called Project Yeti, or at least I don't know if Google's ever officially confirmed that. Supposedly this has been in the works about 2 years, or that's what I've read. And then Google, interestingly, was kind of going around at GDC 2018 this year and E3 to kind of get support from developers. And I think pinging it off people. And even I read one that they were apparently saying they might even do some acquisitions. So they might, you know, bring some developers in. They certainly have the money for it. They also hired Phil Harrison, who was an exec in the past at PlayStation and Xbox. He is now the vice president and GM of some division of Google. We don't know.
Interesting.
But
okay.
Yeah, this might be. This might give us some idea. Google also had a quote kind of about streaming in general in that project page. They said, streaming media has transformed the way we consume music and video, making it easy to instantly access your favorite content. It's a technically complex process that has come a long way in a few short years, but the next technical frontier for streaming will be much more demanding than video. And that makes sense. It's like you said, music is one thing, but those are relatively small files.
There's usually a little bit of a buffer where you can get all of that data you need, whereas with games, it's a back and forth of send command, get back frame, send command, back and frame.
Right. Whereas, movies, video files, obviously much larger, but still they've figured that out. But yeah, gaming, it's, you know, constantly back and forth. It's a two-way street.
And going even like one step ahead, I'm interested to see how this might affect pricing for games in the future. Like if you, like you mentioned earlier, when you buy a digital game, you're buying the license, right? Usually it's at the full price. If you're buying it right away, it's $60. Cool, if I'm streaming a game, is that something I can pay less for? And that might pull me a little bit more to get that license?
Yeah, it seems like that's a great point, because it seems like you would have to make it worth your while, because I think that's how Netflix got so popular. Because it was, you know, at least back in the day, it was what, $8, $9 a month?
Not a lot.
And you got all this access. If it was $60 a month, you know, or the price of a, you know, if it was the price of a movie to stream one movie, people wouldn't do it.
I'm interested in what the service is going to be, because if it's going to be pay $40 for a game and you always can stream that game, cool, I'm in. Maybe there will be like a Netflix-style library that you pay $10 a month, kind of like Xbox is doing with Games Pass.
Exactly.
And they've been expanding that and killing it with Games Pass. So maybe we'll see a mix and we'll figure out what's going on in the future.
It does seem like, and Game Pass is obviously different from streaming, and so is PlayStation Now, but it does seem like a move to get people more on like a monthly subscription plan, you know what I mean? And sort of the steady stream of income rather than just buy one game, play the shit out of it, buy another game a few months later, play, you know, it's like they want that monthly revenue.
Yeah, I'm really, really interested in this technology. I would love to maybe see what the beta is like and figure out what's going on. I know it's a limited scope thing.
You should sign up for it and
I'm
try.
thinking
You
about
might
it.
have that would be, if
I
you
have the internet, I have the computer for it, why not?
Yeah, I wonder what, you know, if there's anything else, and I'm not too much of a technical guy, but do your specs of your machine matter at all?
Well, that's the big thing with this is if it plays out the right way, your machine shouldn't need too big of a spec. Like you shouldn't need to drop $400 on a graphics card.
Right.
All of the rendering and all of the big graphic stuff is being done on the machine on the server end.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's going to send you back just like already the pre-render or the already rendered frame that you need.
Right.
And all that beefiness is on the server side.
Right. Sort of that's kind of an old module of an old model rather of you have sort of the big mainframe computer and then a bunch of kind of dummy terminals almost.
Exactly. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's I don't know what to think of it. I think it's for me it would have to, the price would have to matter because
Absolutely.
In terms of whether I tried it or not, because I'm not going to pay $60 to stream it, and then like I don't know, but yeah, if it was like half that, maybe.
Well, give it time. I mean, the future's here,
Yeah.
and it's really, really cool to see this coming. And like, if the longer and better we get at it, the cheaper it'll be in the long term. So maybe we'll see something down the road.
Especially with Google doing it, they're so big, and if anybody has the technical know-how, they will have it. So
Absolutely.
I think the fact that they're tackling it, and let's say they figure it out, well then. I feel like everyone else, not necessarily will steal the tech, but like it feels like other people will get on board.
Oh, absolutely. We've kind of seen that already with Google and like their Google Fiber services.
Right,
Is like
right.
they pushed out, we can give you fiber like lines for your internet at way cheaper in these big cities.
Right.
And
All
then,
of a sudden, the other services were like, "Oh, we got that.
oh
is
yeah,
that what you wanted?
we
That's
just
fine."
made that breakthrough on how to
Yeah.
make that way cheaper for you.
Right.
And we've seen that that's only happened in these cities where Google Fiber is available.
We
so.
just decided to stop throttling.
Right.
Yeah. So that's what we know about Project Stream with Google. What do you guys think? I'd be interested to know if this is something you guys would try, or you think it's streaming is something that you would not be interested in.
Or
You'd
is it
rather
even
own a
feasible
copy.
for you? Like,
Yeah.
do you have
exactly.
the connection?
Yeah. So let us know down in the comments, and for all your video gaming news, keep it tuned right here to The Know. You're in the right place. TheKnow.tv. See you next time.